something has been getting thrown around the past few days because we watched a situation where CJ Stroud went out this playoff round and had a really up and down game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They went out and won 30-6, but the defense played really well in that game. But looking at his stats, like on paper, he didn't play that well. If you watch it's not that bad. If you watch the game, it maybe jumped out a little bit more. He looked very uncomfortable. His feet were pitter pattering, and he just like could never just like stay in the pocket and like deliver. Then this past week against the New England Patriots, where he goes out there and pretty much lays an egg, has 4 interceptions. He gets sacked 3 times. And obviously just you're going to get absolutely clowned for this in this scenario where you were viewed as this like prodigy rookie. You had an all-time great rookie season. And since that rookie season, your production and your play has continued to get worse over time. And to have it concluded with this loss against New England where you throw 4 picks and you just look terrible, and people during the game were playing with the idea of bringing Davis Mills in to kind of clean this up and see if you can get it figured out because they were in a position to actually win the football game. And at this point, it's not a bad look for CJ Stroud. And so now we're at a situation where people are actually questioning the fact that if they should even re-up CJ Stroud. They obviously can go ahead and grab his 5th-year option of his contract and watch it play out, or they're going to have to go and pay him one of those mega contracts that we've seen get paid out the last few years of these quarterbacks. Where do you stand on that?
So I was one of those people that was saying that they need to bring Davis Mills in during this game because it just looked like CJ Stroud was playing a different sport, playing a different position in this first half. We joked about it. Of course, we joked about it last week about the Nathan Peterman 5 interception half, and we were close.
We were close to having it.
We were really close to seeing our second 5 interception half with CJ Stroud in this game. And it stinks for Texans fans because they were in this game for a majority of the time. They just needed any type of competency at the quarterback position. And that's why I was asking for Davis Mills to come in, because at this point it couldn't have gotten much worse than that first half from CJ Stroud. But you hit the nail on the head. This is a guy that has gotten worse every year since his rookie year. I think that this is a clear-cut, just take it onto the 5th year of his deal. I don't think you extend him. I think you give him a chance. But I don't think that I don't think that this is a guy that they're going to ultimately end up extending. There just hasn't been enough that we've seen these last 2 years that have made me feel great about giving this guy the keys to the franchise after that rookie season. Like, you would expect for him to progress a little bit, and he's gotten worse every year.
I mean, I think that is one. I completely share a completely different side of the spectrum. I think that's a ridiculous sentiment to say just because of a few things here. One, CJ Stroud gets drafted by the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are in shambles. They draft him. They instantly make it to the playoffs. They win a playoff game year 1. Year 2, they win the division year 1. Year 2, they win the division again. They go to the playoffs. Nobody gives them a snowball's chance in hell to beat the Chargers in the playoffs. They go and they beat the Chargers in the playoffs. They go to Kansas City, and they are one drive away, one field goal away from beating Kansas City and going to the AFC Championship. And then year 3, they have a ton of in and out of the lineups, people injured, wide receivers, CJ himself. They have some stability. They're able to finish with a winning record, go win another playoff game, and go into it. To sit here and say, what has that guy done to deserve like a big contract? Well, how many guys over the last 3 years have won playoff games every single season? There's
I don't think he deserves it yet.
I think CJ Stroud's one of those guys.
I don't think he deserves it yet. I think they should play it out how the Daniel Jones situation did, where they don't extend him until they absolutely have to.
But you are the same guy as well. You're the same guy as well, though. Real quick, that every single time a contract's up, you're like, well, why do these guys pay at the top of market? What's the difference of getting a deal done a year early and being able to get ahead of like all of these price spikes that are going to happen with this next group of quarterbacks that are going to come in, and let him be on a more team friendly contract? You look at the Kyler Murray deal with the Arizona Cardinals right now. It's not a bad contract to take on if you're a football team. And if you are just in that same scenario as CJ Stroud, my first question to you is like, one, that's clearly the right move to make. CJ Stroud's clearly their guy moving forward. So like, don't fuck around and not pay him. Two, what's a better option than CJ Stroud at quarterback for them at this point? Because if you move on from CJ Stroud or you don't extend him, they're going to be in a quarterback purgatory lull where they're just going to have to figure out the quarterback position again, no matter what. And I guarantee, I think that like there's a few things that I think that we can kind of chalk up to the idea of like, what's wrong with CJ Stroud? One, look at the offense that was out on the field for the Houston Texans this past weekend. No Nico Collins. Their run game's a mess. Their offensive line's been bad for the past 2 years. Joe Mixon's foot fell off of his body, and he stunk before he was even ruled out for the entire year. There's a lot of stuff here that can get figured out because you're able to have a very safe floor, but they were able to win a lot of games that they weren't supposed to. And I think that it comes down to one, roster construction and understanding what CJ Stroud's strengths and weaknesses are. Two, health. Like if Tank Dell can come back and be healthy, who he clearly really liked his rookie year, and if his leg and knee like are healthy and he could be like 85% of what he was, I like that. If Nico Collins can stay healthy, I really like Nico Collins. Then on the other side of things, he needs offensive support from the fact of how many times have me and you talked about over the past 2.5 years how bad this Houston Texans offensive line's been. It's been an awful cast of and crew of guys and changes pieces that just haven't gelled and haven't been any good. And the last thing is just like, CJ Stroud needs a run game. And it's not going to cut it with Woody Marks. It's not going to cut it with 95-year-old Nick Chubb. It's not going to cut it with the inefficiency disaster that is Joe Mixon. You need to take building up this run game very serious. And I think that like if you take a lot of pressure off of CJ Stroud in a situation where you give him a nice O-line, give him a nice running game, I think you see a different quarterback than like, I'm not saying that he's going to be like a top 2 quarterback in the NFL, but he's not as bad as we've seen him play over this last season and even some stretches during last year as well. I just think it really comes down to roster construction and what they've put around him to really work with.
So I'll say that I am partially recency biased because of these 2 games. These 2 playoff games just put such a poor outlook in my head about CJ Stroud moving forward. And I understand all the issues with them offensively, but like there was so many moments where I was just like confused as to what was going through his head with some of these decisions that were being made that I don't know. It really rubbed me the wrong way. Like there was so many moments where instead of just like throwing the football away or like living to see another down, he's mid getting tackled and trying to throw the football and ends up fumbling, or just like so many stupid bonehead plays along these last 2 playoff games that it really did not sit well with me. But like I said, I don't think they should move on from him right now. I think they give him to the end of this rookie deal and see if they can get this thing in a better direction offensively. I do think they have a lot of things to fix. I do think they need to fix this offensive line. I'm not going to count on Tank Dell to be healthy because that guy's leg's blown up 3 times. I also don't think that they necessarily need him to come back in order to have like a decent wide receiver group. But their offensive line and their run game are not good. Woody Marks is a once every 3 drives type of running back. to come in and take a snap. But I don't know, those two plays or those two games in this playoff really made me uncomfortable about CJ Stroud. And I was higher up on him than what people are giving him credit for now. But I don't know. Those two games brought a lot of like concern to me.
I think it's like I said, I think it's completely overblown at this point. Really, what it comes down to is CJ. That's their guy moving forward. He's completely turned this franchise around. He's made them completely. He's been a part of making them completely relevant. He's been a part of a extremely winning culture in Houston that has been built up now. And to remove CJ from that piece, I just think is one, even remotely playing with the idea that that is a possibility is I just think flat ridiculous. And if you know, first off, you know you're going to pay him, and if you don't pay him, somebody else is going to pay him. So what's the point of even sitting around and playing with your food? I mean, like Tua has a $250 million contract. Like you're going to have to pay CJ Stroud, whether you want to or not. Like so either they're going to do it or somebody else is going to do it, because nobody's just going to give up on CJ Stroud after 5 years when he's shown that he could be a franchise quarterback. And I think that like you just have to take those building blocks that you have at this point and put them back together and fix this roster in multiple ways, because I personally disagree. I think this wide receiving core is terrible. I think both of the picks that they made at wide receiver this year in the draft were like Jalen Noel wasn't even playing once Christian Kirk got back, and Jaden Higgins was okay, not great. I think Nico Collins is good when he plays, but over his entire career, he's been healthy for one season. And
yes,
outside of that one season, he's just constantly in and out of the lineup, and he's a 4th round pick. So they're not dealing with a lot of high end talent of like a wide receiver that they took in the 1st round. CJ's elevated a lot of these guys to be able to become who they are. So again, I just think that like this comes down, he's 24 years old. He's got a ton of playoff wins already at 24, which is crazy. You can't just move on from a guy like this. He clearly has something that I'd say 90% of the league is searching for, and that is finding a way to win and get to the postseason and win games in the postseason.
Yeah, I will say when this receiving core is healthy, I like it more. What they just aren't healthy. That's obviously the issue here with
Kirk. Listen, I love Kirk. Kirk's my guy.
He just can't stay healthy.
Before the Steelers game, he was irrelevant. He was absolutely irrelevant on this offense. And I don't know whose fault that is or whatever. Like, but again, I mean, he just played himself into another contract somewhere else.
Did.
Shout out, go get another payday. But like, before that, he was completely irrelevant. So to sit here and like even think highly of like the Texans wide receiving core is just like, for me, I just think is crazy. They haven't done anything. So I like Nico Collins like a lot. But again, I just like he has like I just want to look here real quick and then we can move on. But I'm just curious because I know that me and you talked about this the one year when I was like players who I'm like who I'm buying and selling stock on. He's played 14 games, 10 games, 15 games, 12 games, 15 games. So he played 15 games this year, but again, like he's never played a full season of games. And then he missed the playoff game. So I need to see more.
Missing the most important game of the season is dings you a little bit extra.
And we're sitting here talking about their most important piece on offense, who's a 3rd round pick at wide receiver. And I'm not saying that it matters where you're drafted, because he's clearly played way above that level and shown that he's extremely talented. But still, I mean, the guy was a 3rd round pick. So I like CJ. I think that he needs to obviously do a lot of work. I think this roster needs a lot of work, not on the defensive side and the offensive side. But I mean, that's really, we talked about it with the Buffalo Bills. You spend all this money on the defensive side of the football, the offensive side of the football is going to lack. You know what I mean? And that's really what we're watching at this stage, where it's like this team is clearly has a very big imbalance on both sides of the football. But it sounds like me and you disagree with that. I think it's an absolute no-brainer to just continue to lock down CJ and give him the keys to the franchise, at least for the next 5 years, and see what he can do. And if he continues to struggle, then that's something that you need to figure out at that time. I think even if he does struggle and you want to get rid of him, I think that guy, he's going to be in 2 years, he'll be 28 years old. I mean, you got to pay him. It would be irresponsible and stupid not to pay a guy in the show.
I do think they will end up paying him. I personally am just hesitant, and I feel like I shouldn't be this hesitant off of two playoff games out of this guy's entire career. But I don't know, something about those just really rubbed me the wrong way. And odds are I'm probably wrong. That's okay. But they'll probably end up paying him. That is probably the smarter move. Like, if you even have an inclination that this guy's your future at quarterback, or any guy in that matter in year 3, it's probably dumb not to pay them. So I agree with that piece of it. And I think that we have a mutual understanding on if you have a guy that you think can be your future, you'll probably end up paying him, and you should. Those 2 games made me really nervous. I just spit it. Good girl, we're getting paper as a passion.